Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Innovation Alley podcast. I'm here with our co-host, Dan Blair, Amy, Graham, and Dan, who are all attending and taking place and helping organize Game Jam just down the street. So we're at 321 and 321 McDermott. And so Game Jam today is at the ACI space. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is a Game Jam for all the folks who don't know what it is?
It's a chance to sort of set aside a weekend, put some time away, because it's easy to get busy during the week or even just in life, really. So it's like a weekend to focus on making a project, making a game. It doesn't have to be a game. You can make a board game. Right now I'm making like a narrative thing. It's not really a game. So I can just sort of crank that out and make something.
Excellent. So now, again, is it the concept... Like, what's the outcome? A game of any kind? Is there a competition? Do you guys display everything at the end of the weekend? What happens throughout the weekend?
Usually there's some form of like a demo night at the end just to like show what everybody made. But for this jam and for a lot of them, there's not really like a prize or a goal or any kind of competitiveness at all. So it usually just takes a form of like on the last day, the last half of the last day is people showing off their games and circling around and everybody trying each other's things because they could end up being anything.
Yeah, for some online game jams, people will submit stuff online, and then people can vote on different, like, rate them different things, and then at the end it's sort of tallied, and the top people are displayed, but there's no prizes or anything. It's just, like, community.
Well, the games are the prizes. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess having
exactly.
finished a game is the prize, right? You finished a game in a weekend, which is pretty crazy. So
now, these have been going on for a while. When was the first one in Winnipeg?
That's a good question.
I actually know quite a bit about that. I did. I made on a PegJam. I have a history of all the game jams that have happened in Winnipeg since 2010.
Okay. PegJam.com.
Yeah, PegJam.com.
Okay.
It's / something I can't remember, but yeah, it started in 2010. They did. PegJam, what was it?
I think it was just PegJam was the first one.
Yeah, PegJam. And then Indie Game the Movie did a little expose showcase on that.
Yeah.
That was pretty big just because it was connected to Indie Game the Movie, obviously.
Yeah.
I only got involved 2014 at the big game jam that we do.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Good.
It's nice to see... I sort of... capture it all because I think it's important to a certain degree, or cool, if nothing else, to have sort of a record that goes back farther than most people think it does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of new people at this jam. There's a lot of new people last year. A lot of people don't know that we do this event, and a lot of people didn't know that there was a game jam in 2014. So that's why I sort of try and capture that.
Awesome. So, who's it for? Like, who comes out to a game jam?
I think it's a good split between, like, a lot of people we see are, like, students or people who have not made a game at all and are looking for a way to just jump into it and be able to actually accomplish something. Because when you start trying to make games on your own, it's easy to get bogged down by, like, not knowing what to do or being sort of directionless and just following tutorials forever and not really getting anything done. So people who are at the stage where they're like, I'm kind of dipped my toe into this and I want to just get something done, it's definitely for them. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I think you have people who sort of do, like myself, who do games for full-time, normally, and want to break away and do other projects, and people who are looking to do something weird or different is kind of the other angle.
That's interesting. I know that for a fact, like my team right now, I've sent to the Game Jam, and we are focused heavily on VR, specifically like serious gaming and hazard identification and style stuff. Not a single person on my team is building a VR game. Right. They're all playing around with different aspects, like just learning and being creative. So yeah, like we use it for just the opportunity to like just kind of like screw around with something new and prototype an idea. And we have actually built products based off of what we've built at game jams. But are you guys finding that now that we've had several years of game jams that we're starting to have a bit of a community around it, repeat people, and do you find that they are working on projects over the course of multiple game jams, like they'll revive an old idea, or is it generally new people and new ideas every time?
Probably a bit of both. Like there are new people obviously each time, but there's also like even we had game jammed a game and we had received positive feedback because of like our community and stuff. Whereas if we just did it alone, like we wouldn't have been able to share it with all those people. But since we got the positive feedback, we're like, well, maybe this is worth revisiting and making into a full game. And then we released it on itch. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like it's easy to use a jam to gauge like whether or not you should continue working on something after the fact. But I think most of the time people are probably just always starting new ideas.
Yeah,
probably like 90% of the time.
So you mentioned the word itch, so itch.io.
Yeah, sorry, I
indie
should've
game
clarified.
platform.
Yes.
So the folks at home, you can actually check these games out. So what's the name of the game? Is it PegJam? What's the name of the game?
The
one
Winnipeg
that
Game
we're-
Jam is the name of the jam, but there's
Okay.
a itch page for Winnipeg stuff, right?
Yeah.
There will be.
Okay.
By the end of the weekend, maybe. Yeah? By the time you're listening to this podcast.
That's a good reminder, actually. I need to set that up so people like. It's probably helpful if we like show people like how it works because a lot of people just upload a Dropbox and it's kind of hard to keep track of it. Like Itch is nice because I have different collections for there's different. Again, like if it's on Dropbox, I can't sort of like capture it. But I have like a Winnipeg Game Collective collection on there of all the Winnipeg games on itch. So it's kind of cool to scroll through that and like see all the games. It's like, there's like a decent amount of games here.
Well, so there's a couple things I want to get into. So first off, I'm going to date myself because there were no such thing as game engines when I started playing games on the computer. And actually, Dan motivated me to download Unity a couple weeks ago. And the world of gaming and game development has changed, obviously, in the last 30 years a bit. How does someone go about developing a game? So is it just hopping in and programming in C? Or what does that look like now when you start building a game?
Yeah, I mean, it starts like very few people are building engines from scratch now, of course. But yeah, like the first step of that is like, I don't know, for me, like I always recommend people go to the Unity engine, and that's like a super widely used one. But that's like the flow now is just like if you know anything about programming, choose an engine that supports a programming language you like, and just start diving into like making the cube tutorial for your given engine.
They're not all designed the same, right? So like Unity's pretty complex compared to some of the other ones. What are some of the popular engines people like to dev on?
GameMaker is a really like simple, probably a good level entry game engine. It's a lot of sort of drag and drop, click sort of drop down menu kind of programming.
Yeah.
And you can take it a step further and it can be almost as complicated as some of the other engines. I use it for sort of prototyping, like a quick game idea, just getting it out there. It's not functional the way that I intended to, but it's close enough that I can get like an idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just go straight to Unity. For the most part, I just do Unity.
And then once you have something in Unity or in the engine, you've developed it out, you have the concept, you want to put it on itch.io, you want to distribute it, put it on an app store. How hard is it to get from that semi-finished product to something you can share with everyone else? Is that a big deal nowadays, a small deal?
I think it kind of depends on the scope of your game. Like some games are just like easier to polish than others.
Yeah, it's as far as like the technical side of like packaging a build and getting it ready to distribute, like a huge percentage of that is taken care of by the engine nowadays. Like especially with Unity, you can go multi-platform with a minimal amount of work and distribute builds for Windows, Mac, and Linux like all together without much thought.
Just change the checkbox of what you're deploying to.
Yeah, and normally, like, especially for a game jam, which is mostly what we're talking about, like, your game is not going to be so complicated that there's additional complexity to, like, going to different platforms. It's probably going to be a pretty straightforward, like, technical package. So, yeah, being able to do that with Unity is pretty much like a series of clicks and waiting for some loading bars. So, yeah.
Great. So now, if I'm hearing about this at home, first time I've heard about Game Jam before, how do I get involved in the community to learn more and come to the next Game Jam?
I think PegJam.com is a great place to start.
Yeah, probably the Twitter. I would start there just because it's more like active and current and up to date.
At PegJam.
At Winnipeg Game Jam, I believe.
At Winnipeg Game Jam.
Yeah, I should
Okay.
probably know that.
There's links to
you're
that
right.
on
Google it,
the
folks.
Yeah.
yeah. There's links to everything on the site too, though, right?
PegJam.com.
Yeah.
Go there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So, just a last thing. Kind of curious to know about the industry. So, is the game development industry in Winnipeg? Is it growing? Is it shrinking? How is it changing right now?
I think we're in like seeing a lot of new faces pop up and new studios pop up and like new projects being taken on. Yeah, it's easy to see that as like a whole, like when we see the event size, like average attendance for events like increasing over time, it's easy to see that as like a whole trend of like studios are, becoming bigger and more numerous at the same time that events are sort of picking up pace. And
I'm also noticing that more studios are hiring. I know Campfire is hiring, and Zenfry is hiring in space.
yeah.
That's something that I hadn't seen so much when I first got involved in the community.
Even when BitSpace founded, like there wasn't, I rarely saw any job postings.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to know somebody to get in at, Complex or wherever that, it's anywhere. You had to know who was hiring at that exact time and probably meet them at the Game Jam, and impress them. I think overall the industry's growing. There are more studios. There are bigger studios now. It's still a young industry here, but I think like you're seeing more and more studios, more and more cash flowing into the industry here. I think more people are accessing stuff like CMF than ever before in Manitoba. So we're starting to see a lot. The Canadian Media Fund.
Okay.
So we're seeing more federal money flow into the industry in Manitoba than ever before. More jobs and more work coming our way here because we do have competitive advantages in our province, like the interactive digital media tax credit, which allow businesses to compete globally a lot cheaper here than elsewhere in the world. So I think that plays a huge role at it. Plus, we have the schools to support the technical talent in a very unique market. So overall, the industry is growing, and we have a huge advantage here. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you guys and gals get back to the jam. Thank you very much for taking time out of the day. Looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I'm going to log on to Itch here and do some searches.
Should
Sweet.
swing by on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, play some
That'd
of
be
the
great.
games.
That'd be perfect.
bring your
And,
garage thing.
Exactly. Great. Well, yeah, thank you very much and take care.
Cool. Thanks for having us.